welcome to the Pursuit of Healthiness podcast. I'm your host, Winanda van Delft. I'm a health and mindset coach, spaghetti and ice cream lover, travel junk, and a cat mom. I love conversations that are on a more raw and deeper level. And today I have with me Mariana. Mariana is a social worker and an emotional wellness coach. She just started an emotional wellness coaching business called My Emotional Intelligence, where she focuses on helping women to become more confident and create loving relationships with themselves and others through developing strong emotional intelligence skills. So you already guessed it, today's episode is all about emotional intelligence. So welcome Mariana to the podcast. How is everything today?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Everything's good, just a relaxing, quiet morning. How about you?
Everything is fine, thank you. I am excited to talk about emotional intelligence today. I think it's really necessary, and I think a lot of people don't really understand what it really is. So can you explain a little bit what you do and, tell a little bit about yourself?
For sure, yeah. So I am a social worker. I'm in grad school right now. While I'm doing that, I started my own emotional wellness coaching business, where I focus on coaching people to become their highest, most authentic selves through emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is having the awareness of your emotions and how it affects our behaviors and cognition, because our emotions drive a lot of how we behave, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the most positive emotion and what's the most negative emotion that people deal with?
So pure happiness is probably the most positive one, right? And then I think the most negative one, I guess it really just depends on the person. I would say anger, because when we're angry, people don't understand that a lot of times you have another underlying emotion that is causing that anger. And when you don't understand that, you can't get to the root of the issue, and then you act out,
Yeah, exactly. So what about fear? Because I've been talking about fear in a lot of my episodes, and it seems that fear keeps coming back. Like even you probably experience the same in your own business, the fear of failing, the fear of, what do people think about me? What if this doesn't work? What if it goes that way? Like, how can we control that? Or what is your perspective on fear? Is it something that we can use for the good, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, so in social work, we were taught a lot to embrace fear, and we're going to be uncomfortable a lot of the times in situations, you know what I mean? So we were just taught to embrace it and just kind of do everything you can to make yourself uncomfortable. So I've just been doing that for the past few years, and but there's also a big part of fear. When I started my business, I definitely had a lot of those, oh my God, what are people going to think of me? What if I fail? And I learned that's just my ego trying to sabotage me. If I were to listen to all those fears, I would not have done it. So yeah, it's just really making yourself uncomfortable, getting used to that feeling, and understanding where your ego is taking over.
Yeah, so what I have a phrase in my head, but I have a question in my head, but I don't really know how to phrase it, so I'm going to try to explain it as well as I possibly can. So emotional intelligence is like how can we be aware of our emotions? I I see people react out of emotion rather than logic. What
Yeah.
do you know what I'm trying to say a little bit?
Yeah, it's a very complicated thing to explain, I think, to people who haven't already studied it or have already been in therapy learning about themselves. But so emotional intelligence, I guess I would explain, is having self-awareness, knowing what your emotions are, knowing how to communicate them without causing conflict, and then also being aware of other people's feelings and how you affect people, and being able to like work on that relationship. So a lot of the times, yeah, when we have these feelings, we react instead of respond. And it's because we don't know that we're doing that. And one way to be more in control and aware of your emotions is to literally practice every single day and be mindful of like what you're feeling. So a lot of the times when I work with my clients on that, I start them off with journaling every single day, every morning. I give them this little mood meter, and I have them talk every morning about what they're feeling, where they are on the mood meter, put a word with that feeling, and then talk about like why they're feeling that way, what the feeling is trying to tell them, if they want to stay in that feeling or move away from it, and what they can do to stay or move away from that feeling. And after they've been doing this for like a few weeks, they just start doing it automatically in their head throughout the day. And they tell me like, wow, I've noticed I've been like understanding why I'm anxious all the time now. And like, I'm able to talk myself down or not react about it and like have a conversation about it instead. And it's really awesome. I'm like I get really proud of them because I'm like, oh my God, you guys, yes, this is it. You're doing it.
Yeah, you see the results. Like those people finally get it and understand and are being mindful with their emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had another question, but I don't know. I know it's on the tip of my tongue, but oh yeah, I remember. Talking about emotions, I've also well, not really learned, but I've read that sometimes it's a good thing to manipulate your emotions by using language, by using your words, instead of saying, I feel okay today, I feel happy today. So it does have an influence on your emotions. So what do you know about that connection between the language that you speak and the emotions that you feel?
Yeah, I feel like it is really important to like acknowledge what you're actually feeling, but also set the tone for a good day. Because if we were to like deny our emotions, that like wouldn't turn out well for us in the end. But setting like an intention for how you're going to feel for the day, I think is a little different. So like in the morning, if I wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling like sluggish today, that's okay. But I can also say like, I'm going to have a good day and feel happy today as like my affirmation. And so that you can focus on like switching over to that emotion instead.
Yeah. Do you know how it works in the body? It's just, I don't know if you know that, but how that connection goes in your brain, like how it impacts us, that just the small thing changing in what you say and what you think can change your emotions.
I think that I guess the best way to describe it is, phantom limb. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, when you have like, you're missing, for everybody who doesn't know, when you're missing, like, let's say this part of your arm and you're like tense in your arm because you don't have it anymore. And you have this tension and you don't know how to untense because you can't see your hand. And so doctors will pull a mirror out and like make it so that it appears like you have an arm with your other arm. And that way you can like release the tension. And I don't know if I described that really well.
Yeah.
But
I think it's really interesting.
yeah. And I feel like doing that is the same when you like talk about your affirmations and intentions and emotions. It's kind of like you fake it till you make it, or you keep saying it so you trick your mind into believing it until you do start believing it. And I guess I would just compare it to that phantom limb because it's kind of the same thing. You have that mirror and you're mirroring something until you believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really fascinating that we can do that. Like we can trick our minds into feeling something, and like you said, until we feel a certain way. Like I'm not an advocate for pretending. That's something different. Like if you pretend to be happy all the time while you're not, it's different. Like that will put on a lot of pressure on you as well and a lot of stress. But you can change your state of mind like that. Like we don't have to feel sad all the time. We don't have to feel anxious. Like it is it all comes back to our brains, right? And our mindset, how we think, how we speak, how we, even our body language have an impact on our emotions, right?
Yeah, and I definitely don't want to like disregard. There are definitely people who have chemical imbalances in their brain and they do have mental health issues. There are also people who don't necessarily have that and are situationally depressed or stressed out or anxious. And, you know, I've been through that myself. And the way I worked on it is by working on a routine daily of those affirmations and journaling my emotions and all that stuff. And you know, it's not just going to change overnight. You know, we have to work at it every day to change our whole mindset and be more positive and like thankful for who we are. Cause yeah, our mind is like such a powerful thing. It's crazy.
Yeah. So you said that you experienced that before. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, like how you felt in the time and how you managed to overcome that?
Yeah. So when I moved to Colorado like 2 years ago, and I didn't know anybody, I didn't go with anybody, like it was just me and my dog. And we went, like my job fell into place, my apartment fell into place, like it was great. I did a lot of hiking, like all that stuff, but then I like didn't have anyone to hang out with or anything, and I didn't make friends for a while. And I had this like really, like I was really depressed and like lonely, and it was really hard for a while. And I like was like, oh my God, like this is the first time I'm like sitting still with myself. I don't have any distractions. I like don't even know who I am. Like I don't know what I want. And it was this weird, like kind of scary moment. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to figure it out. So I started building all these routines for myself. Like I have a background in facilitating dialectical behavior therapy and like helping people find natural habits, healthy habits in their life when I was working in substance abuse. So I have these like underlying knowledge and skills. So I started creating this lifestyle for myself to pull me out of this funk so that I could be like genuinely and authentically me. I like didn't date anyone for 8 months, didn't go out on dates, like just focused on myself and making friends and genuine relationships. And it was awesome. Like I feel like at this point now, like it's really hard to hurt my self-esteem because I've built it up so much. For somebody else to do that would just be
That's
like,
awesome.
I won't allow it. Yeah. And so I think a lot of people can get there. It's just like a lot of work.
It truly is. Yes, it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of effort. But once you are in that place of feeling really confident and having that self-esteem, it's amazing. Like, I don't know how it felt for you, but for me, it felt like I could do anything in the world. Like, seriously,
Yeah.
like I didn't care about what other people thought anymore. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. And, a whole new world opens up because of that, because we are holding ourselves back so much
Yes.
of that.
And it's crazy because, you see how like, I think relationships are like the most important thing we can have in life because, at the end of the day, when you're dying, you're not going to be like, I made so much money or like, I mean, you might be like, I went to all these cool places. That's pretty cool. But your loved ones are going to be there with you, holding your hand, comforting you,
Yeah.
And that's what I think is important to me. And we study this in social work. There's like a phase at the end of your life of whether you've done everything you could to help out the next generation or not. And you have a lot of like turmoil over it if you didn't. It's just a theory. I don't really know. I'm only 26. I don't know what that's like, but I feel like it's really important. And it really is just makes me so sad how some people treat each other and like how people allow others to treat them. And, it's like if you just like loved yourself, you would literally never let anyone treat you less than the way you treat yourself.
Yes, it's also about setting boundaries, right? Like you said, like I'm 26 as well, and I cannot imagine. Like I'm asking myself, like, if I would die today, have I done what I always wanted to do, and how are people looking back at me? What kind of impact, what kind of legacy did I left? What kind of positive thing did I brought out into the world? And it's kind of unrealistic to talk about it or to think about it because I am so young. I'm like, I just I have years to come. But on the other hand, my partner, he was in the hospital 2 years, almost 3 years ago, with heart problems, with a heart virus, and he was almost dead, and he was 26 at that time. So I'm like, it could be over like that. Like it was really scary. So we were like, you don't have to be old to die. Like it can happen to anybody. So it really makes you think about what you put out into the world, what you are saying to yourself, how you are treating yourself and other people, and what really is important in life. And like you said, in the end, it comes back to relationships, to the people that you love. And of course, money is nice. Like you said, it's nice to have that money to see places and to do fun stuff. But in the end, it doesn't really matter if you're lonely. If you are alone and have a lot of money, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And to go circle back to the time thing, I feel like, especially for some reason, our generation and the generation below us is like, we have so much time to do anything we want that we're just going to like be reckless right now. And it's like, you really don't though. You don't have that much time. You like, you know what I mean? Like, I think the biggest misconception is that we think we have all this time, but like, I don't think that's true. I think that we should get on whatever we want to do and reach our goals and work on ourselves and others so that we can have a great life our whole life and not just like rush to fit everything in later. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm a little bit 50-50 on that, because some days I realize, especially when I look at parents or my grandparents, I'm like, they're like 60, 70, and I'm like, that's a long time. And then I calculate back, like when they were my age, it was like 56 or something. And I'm like, oh my God, like I do have a lot of time. But at the same time, I'm like, but I also don't. Like it could be over like that. So I need to make, like, I need to create things that I want to reach my goals, and I want to look back at my life happily and not regretting stuff, because I'm like, oh, that will come later, that you didn't do stuff because you think you have enough time. So I'm a little bit on both sides. I do have enough time, but I also don't.
Yeah. I just feel like I have so much that I want to do that I'm like, I need to start doing it now, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. And if I don't start now, someone else might take my ideas. And I guess I'm a little more competitive. I don't know.
Well, I do have the same. And I was talking with my fiance, with Davey, about it as well. Like sometimes we are working so much, and maybe even too much sometimes, because we have the feeling that we don't have enough time, because we want to do all of this stuff at once. But I think it's also important, of course, you need to realize that time isn't endless, but I think it's also really important to enjoy now, enjoy the present, and be grateful for what you have right now. And just enjoy life right now, instead of always focusing on goals in the future, and I want to accomplish this in the future. And because it sounds cliche, but you never know what tomorrow brings. And it is cliche for a reason. I hate that I'm saying this, because my teachers and my parents used to say that, like, tomorrow is a gift, like you should enjoy it today. And
and that's like where those importance of like setting boundaries come in, like you're saying you guys like work so much, but you forget like you need to also enjoy the days that you have. And that's where you set those boundaries, like don't work after this time if you don't have to, and like do like these many things, like go on a walk this many times throughout the week, and go on a vacation a few times a year, and like setting those boundaries so that you're still enjoying life while you're also getting like what you want to get in with work.
Yeah, exactly. I think we are the kind of generation that we try to balance it out, because if I look at my parents or my grandparents, they were working all the time, and now they try to enjoy their pension. But I'm like, yeah, but that's not how I want to live. Like, I also want to enjoy now. I want to travel right now. I want to see the world right now, while making a life for my future self. Because I also believe that you have to work hard and then play hard. Like if we work now, we have.
I don't think there's even like a right answer, it's all about perspective and like, what do you really want out of life? And do you need to do that now, or do you have like time? And, like,
Yeah.
I think it's just all about perspective and what you want. So
Exactly. And balance.
balance
Is
is
really
so
important.
important.
Yeah. It's it's if there is a thing that I've learned the last couple of years, it's balance with everything. Like you said, with building your own business, but also enjoying the time that you have right now. Playing hard, or working hard, and then playing hard, and
And then
it's
sleeping.
and then sleep. Yeah, that's very important actually. Like
Yeah.
how does sleep impact your emotions? Because I know that I'm not as happy as I could have been if I don't get enough sleep. So how does that
Yeah.
work? How is that going on?
Well, the recommended hours of sleep is 8 hours a night. I think everybody's body is different. Like
Yeah.
I need 8 hours of sleep. My boyfriend is like good on 6, 5.5 maybe, and he's like good for the day. And I think like when we don't get the sleep that we need, we obviously become very cranky and irrational because we can't like think straight because we're depriving our body of that rest that we need to like recuperate from the day before or whatever events had taken place, So
Yeah.
sleeping is really important. That's why meditation is like a common coping skill or like also really important because it kind of like gives your body that time to shut down a little bit and like listen and relax instead because we use our bodies so much for everything and it's like we got to take care of the things that we're using.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same with nutrition. Like food has such a great impact on your emotions as well and how you're feeling. Like,
Yes, it does.
yeah.
It does. Like healthy foods help with like vitamins in our bodies, like vitamin D's and vitamin B's that improve our mood and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
and it's crazy. I feel like a lot of people don't realize like how much food does affect your mood. And, if I'm eating junk food, I kind of like don't feel that great. Or
Yeah.
like alcohol, anxiety. But when I'm eating like healthy foods and like really keeping track of my diet, I feel like really good, energized, happy that I'm doing that. And then also happy because I'm getting those vitamins in.
Yeah, exactly. It's also really important to take care of your gut because that's where a lot of emotions are as well.
Yeah.
But some people say I believe it, but I still have to figure it out myself. I am diving deeper into that, but maybe you notice that you hold on to your emotions in certain parts of your body. So for example, it could be that if you have pain in your lower back, it could be that you have unresolved emotions that you crop up. What do you know about that?
I feel like, yes, that's definitely, it's really crazy. So I was studying the DSM-5, which is like the diagnostic manual of all the mental health disorders. And in there was this disorder called somatic syndrome. And from what I gathered, it's basically like you're really, really physically ill and nobody can explain why. So they're alluding to the fact that you have so much anxiety or stress or whatever that it's causing you to literally be physically sick.
Yeah.
And that's like, yes, our emotions wear and tear on our body. And I don't really know how to explain it, I guess, but everybody's different. They don't like have all the mental health or stressors respond to their body the same way. Like I know when I'm anxious, like my stomach really hurts and I can't eat anything. But some
Yeah.
people, when they're like stressed or anxious, they eat a lot.
Yeah.
And it's really just different for everybody. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of physical problems that can happen if you don't resolve your emotional issues.
Yeah.
And I also need to look more into the why behind that. I'm not sure there's like a lot of like evidence supporting it or research put into it because I feel like emotional intelligence is still like a pretty new thing. So we don't
True.
like have a
Yeah.
lot of research on it.
Yeah, but it was a great example actually what you gave. Like often people have stage fright, feel it in their stomach, like you physically feel ill because of the fear or because of the stress that you experience. So I do believe there's a truth to that, but there still needs to be done a lot of research on that, and I do need to do my own research as well, and everybody is different, so it could result in different physical or mental problems when you hold on to your emotions. But what can you say about holding on to your emotions? Like, how can we let it go? Because so many people say you have to feel your emotions and then let it go, but it's always easier said than done. So how can you give an example or a tip? Like, how can you do that if you feel angry? Like, how can you sit with your emotion and then let it go? Like, or I know like I hold on to grudges a long time unless I speak about it. Like, if I am irritated by my partner, then I have to speak about it. Otherwise, I hold on to a grudge and I become so angry and cranky until I have spoken about it. So I do need to work on that, though. I know that. I'm aware of that. But what is a tip that you could give? Like, how do you really allow yourself to have that emotion and let it go and move on?
Yeah, I think this is like probably one of my most favorite things to talk about. I think it's really, really, really important to validate like ourselves and our emotions and other people, because when we don't, we build resentment and it causes conflict within ourselves and others. And so I guess the best way to describe it is like, first of all, I don't think anger is a core emotion. I feel like when we're angry, we are feeling something else and it's surfacing as anger because that's a defense mechanism so that we're not vulnerable. I don't know why vulnerability is such a big issue. I think vulnerability is the strongest thing you can do. Everyone or society has deemed it as weak for whatever reason, but I think people who are vulnerable are brave. Exactly. And Brene Brown talks about it all the time. She's fantastic. She does research on it. Yeah. But yeah, I think that what they mean by feeling that feeling is really just, if I'm feeling like anxious about something, to sit down and be like, okay, what is going on that is making me feel this way? Really get to the core of it. Like, what do I need from this or what do I need to give myself and my body to help this feeling or to like resolve it or what have you? Do I need to talk to somebody about it? Do I need to journal about it because I'm making this feeling up in my head? Like, what is going on? So really getting to the root of that, and then
asking yourself the right questions, really.
Yeah, asking yourself the right questions, giving yourself what you need, and then that's when you can move forward from it. I think there's definitely like a lot of appropriate times you can do it, like, when you're at work and something's bothering you, like that might not be appropriate. So using some like emotion regulation skills, distracting yourself, throwing yourself more into work to focus on work, and then coming back to this, like, okay, now what's going on? Like, why am I feeling this way? And it's really important to, just sit there and like pay attention to it and, give the feeling truth. Like, why am I feeling this way? Don't judge yourself for having that feeling. I think that's one of the worst things we can do. Yeah, I like to say it like, little kids, like if a little kid dropped their ice cream on the floor and they start crying because they're upset about it, and you tell a little kid like, you're fine, don't cry. Like, you wouldn't tell a kid that, you'd be like, oh my God, you dropped your ice cream. It's okay. We'll go get a new one. Like, giving them what they need, validating their experience, letting them know that their feeling of being upset is a real feeling and that's okay to feel that way. Yeah. And then, your feelings just simply are your feelings. They're your truth. For anybody to try and tell you that your feelings aren't real or your feelings are made up, this isn't like a real thing that's happening, is wrong. And you need to stick to your feelings, and you're entitled to feel that way, and then sit with it for a little bit and really just, go through that steps of understanding them and then let it go.
Yeah. Even if it doesn't make sense for you at the time, like, your feelings are valid. Like, you feel that way in that moment. So because I sometimes have conversations with my partner and then he feels upset or I feel upset, and then we're like asking each other like, is it valid? Like, do I have the right to feel this way? And I always say, like, yes, of course. Like, it may
It's
not make
always
it's
valid.
always valid. Exactly. Like, that is how you feel. That's how I feel in this moment. So it is valid. It may not make sense to someone else, but that doesn't matter. It's about you at the moment. It's about your feelings and working through them to make it better. And I think what you said, to give a little bit of a summary, like, when you sit with your emotions and move through them, it's like asking yourself the right questions. Where is it coming from? But also taking action afterwards to make it feel better, right?
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
if we react out of anger, sometimes we feel like stupid later or embarrassed and stuff. But if we instead sit there and are like, okay, why am I angry? What's the issue here? What's bothering me? What can I do about it right now?
Yeah.
And then like calming down and then dealing with it, because you have thought it through, you really know what you're feeling, and you're really able to communicate that better.
Yeah.
And so like when you said you and your partner, like you'll kind of resent him a little bit because you'll hold things in, but then after you talk about it, don't you feel so much better?
Yeah. It is like that's what I know. Like, in the beginning, when I wasn't all aware of my emotions and my feelings, I would be I would hold on to it for, I could, like, a week could go by and I would still have that feeling. But now I'm like, no, I need to talk about it immediately. It may not always be pleasant for him to hear, but I'm like, okay, I got it out of my system, it's done. Like, I'm happy again, and then he sits with the feel. But that's a different story. We help each other with that. But it feels so much better. And in the beginning, as I said, when I wasn't aware of my emotions, or when I didn't think about his emotions, then it would make things so much worse. And I'm like, it's, in a way, if you just speak about it, you have different ways to say how you feel about someone or about a situation, and I think we need to be more aware of that too.
Definitely. And to expose my boyfriend a little bit, like he is like such a math, logic, science guy, and I'm like a very emotional, like whatever, right-handed part of the brain, and he's like left-handed, or if, I don't know if that's right, but
Yeah.
And so when we started like dating, we'd have to learn how to communicate to each other, because we're just so different.
Yeah.
And so like he doesn't really talk about things, and so I'd be like, well, you need to talk to me about this, because I can tell you're upset, because not only can I feel it because I'm an empath, but I like you're acting different. And so then he learned, like, okay, so I used to have to pry it out of him. Now he's a lot better at just telling me when something's bothering him.
Yeah.
And it makes our relationship so much better. We trust each other so much more. We like communicate more. We don't really have that anxiety or resentment towards each other, because we talk about things. And again, pick and choose your battles. Like, if things really matter, we talk about them. If not, we just brush it off. But like, yeah, it makes our whole relationship better. And it can, when you do talk about things.
Yeah, that brings me actually to another question. Now we are talking about this. So how can we help someone who isn't in tune with their emotions? Like you said, your boyfriend, like, he doesn't want to talk about it. Like, but it is important, especially when you are an empath. You want to know what is going on, especially when you feel it and you see it in someone. So what is the best way to handle those situations?
Yeah. I
Good
tricky
question, right?
question, because like you do want to help, but as like a significant other, it's not your role to fix somebody or to, so I guess the way that I would say to do it is lead by example, like, this is what I really like, or telling them what you need from them, I guess, is a really good way of putting it. Like, if you're feeling this way, I need you to tell me about it so that we can work on it together. Or lead by example, like, I'm feeling this way, and when this happens, and I need you to know that, and keep doing that instead of like reacting, so that they learn this is the way that you do it too. Or like with him, it would be like, I feel uncomfortable when you don't share your feelings with me about like something that's bothering you, because I can feel it. I can feel like I get anxious because I can feel that you're anxious, and it like really affects me and it bothers me, and it definitely like stumps our relationship a little bit. And, you know, once hopefully your partner is reactive to that. If they're not, that's like, I think another issue. But my boyfriend was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I can do that for sure. You know what I mean? Like having that conversation and learning to move forward and having them be receptive to it, and like not reactive, receptive is what I meant. Receptive to it and really make those changes, because it's not like you're asking them to change for you, but you're fitting each other's needs more better that way. You know what I mean?
I love that you say that and that you use that as an example, especially what you are asking from him and how you are asking it, because I know especially women are really great at that, just saying like, oh, you need to tell me what's wrong with you. Like, I don't think that's the right approach. As you've said, you just have to lead by example, or let them know that you are available to talk about it and that it is okay to talk about it.
Yeah, and it's also okay to not talk about it. Like putting that platform out, like, hey, like if you want to talk about this, I'm all ears. But if you don't want to talk about it, that's cool too. Just like at some point we should probably talk about it, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, communication is super important. This is why some relationships are super successful, because they know how to communicate with each other, and they don't have like, they put everything out in the open. And that's what we do. And that's what successful relationships I've noticed have done, you know?
Yeah, we do it too. We are together for 10.5 years. So it says something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. One of the last questions. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned when it comes to emotions and dealing with it?
Wow.
Or just a lesson that you've learned in life, like that's also fine.
I think that the biggest lesson I've learned, I literally got it tattooed on my arm.
Oh, really? I cannot read it.
It says, "This too shall pass." It's
I
from the Bible.
That.
I'm not like super religious or anything, but I think it's great because it reminds me that emotions are temporary. And, you know, this feeling that I'm having right now, because I used to have like a lot of anxiety. If this feeling that I'm having right now isn't permanent and it's not going to last, and this too shall pass. You're going to get through it. There's no need to make like a permanent solution for a temporary problem, you know? So always knowing that feelings pass, things change, time moves on. Like you can't control everything outside of you. That was another big one. Learning not to control everything outside of yourself.
That's a really big one. I think people need to understand that a lot more, because since the moment that I understand that and really practice it and focusing on what you do can control instead of the things that you cannot control, it makes life so much easier as well. You're like, okay, I cannot control that, but I can control this, so let's focus on this. And then many new opportunities arise, and it's just so much nicer and better, instead of just constantly worrying about the things that you cannot control, because you cannot do anything about it. And even if something happened that wasn't under your control, and it went bad, you still have the choice and control over what you do next. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I also have that one tattooed on my arm.
Really?
It's a wedding tattoo though. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, kind of looks like a scar.
Yeah, it looks like a scar. Yeah.
I was pretty religious when I was younger and I got these tattoos. I guess I kind of fell out of it a little, but that one is for the Serenity Prayer. Have you heard of that one?
No.
It's grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Okay. Wow.
So I got that one tattooed to also remind me you can't control things, or not to try and control things outside of my power, I guess, and to stay focused on controlling what I can.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
So how can people contact you if they want to work with you, or just want to learn more about it, or just think you are a really sweet, amazing woman? Then how can they contact you?
So I have an Instagram. It's at My Emotional Intelligence LLC. And then my email, MEI@myemotionalintelligence.org. And then I have a Facebook page also, My Emotional Intelligence. And I post a lot of great content on my Instagram, all about what we just talked about and more. And I also take private messages, emails, what have you. I give advice all the time and all that good stuff. Yeah.
That is
So
great.
Yes,
I'll leave everything in the description so people can contact you and connect with you. So I really want to thank you for today, for this podcast, for having this talk with me and shine a little bit more light into emotions and how we can deal with them and more.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I was excited. This is my first podcast.
You did really, really well. I hope that you learned a little bit more about your emotions and what emotional intelligence really is. If you have any questions, all the details are in the description box. You can contact me or Mariana to help you love yourself a little bit more and to deal with your emotions. If you are looking for a health and wellness coach, we are here to help you. Just click the link in the description and we will take it from there.